we're joined here by Kurt. Kurt, you just come out of a Tea Party, basically a convention in there with a couple hundred Tea Party leaders from all over the area, right?
Yeah.
What did you get out of that meeting?
What I got out of the meeting is that I can see that the folks of Michigan are really starting to coalesce. The Tea Parties themselves are starting to come together.
So they're not dying out?
Oh, by no means.
Do you think this election got them more fired up?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the election itself, although I think people had to kind of lick their wounds a little bit, I think it's got them madder than they've ever been before.
So they're even more fired up, more determined?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. We're talking to America here. What would you say to every American out there watching this show right now?
You know, I think the most important thing that any of you can do is to become educated, get to know your representatives personally. Seek them out in where they're at in your community. Your representatives represent so many people that they can't possibly build that personal relationship. It's important for you to build that so that you can garner influence with your representatives. If you think about your representatives and where they come from your community. They are experts in something that they used to call a job. But where is their expertise on the 3,000 plus bills that they have to deal with in a legislative session? Who's informing their votes? When your representative has to deal with lobbyists and other people who are trying to peddle influence in their office, where is your voice? If you don't know your representative and you call your representative and say, hey, this is Joe Dokes off the street and I don't like this piece of legislation, you become a tick mark on a page. But once you build that relationship with your representative, once you've seen them out in public a few times, they get to know your face. Eventually they get to know your name, and eventually they get to know you. And if you can build credibility with them, you can build influence. It's a totally different level of influence to be able to call your representative and say, hey, this is John, and this is going to hurt my business.
What do you think of the GOP?
I try to stay out of that whole, I guess, I don't know what to really call it. It's
almost like a love-hate relationship with the GOP, isn't it?
Well, I think from my standpoint, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the GOP or whether you're talking about the Democrat Party. The fact is that the parties will vote for party power 100% of the time over policy.
So there's a lot of people in the GOP that's blaming the Tea Party for losing this election. What do you say to them?
I think that the reality is that the GOP has given nobody a way to differentiate them from the other side. The fact is that you need the conservative vote in order to win elections.
Yeah, but if the GOP party is the conservative party, how come they're blaming the Tea Party for bringing them more conservative? How's that working out?
No, I think the fact is that is happening. If you look at the last election cycle, you had John McCain was the liberal Republican in the ticket, and Mitt Romney was the conservative Republican. This time around, all of a sudden, Mitt Romney was the liberal Republican on the ticket, and
almost changed spots.
Mitch Daniels didn't even get in the race because he didn't think he could win. So, we're talking about the fact that we are having an influence pulling this thing back to the right. It just doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a while. It takes several election cycles in order to actually be able to bring folks in from the bottom up and to, elect folks at your local levels, have them start to filter into the state levels, and then filter into the national level.
Do you think the GOP is going to take over the Senate in the next election?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it depends on the GOP.
Well, I certainly do appreciate you being here today. What's the one issue? I mean, we have the Federal Reserve, we have the Obamacare, we have the UN Small Arms Ban Treaty, we have Agenda 21 coming out. There's so many issues out there, I couldn't list them all. The debt crisis going on right now, this fiscal cliff that we're about ready to fall off of, I think almost one way or another. What's your top concern?
My top concern is really none of those. My top concern is getting the people involved again to a point where they understand their civic authority and their ability to self-govern. Most people see the government as something being that something being over the top of them that really kind of forces its will down upon them. But the reality is that the government is really very shackled in the things that they can do, and we are not. Once people start to understand that they have this power and learn how to wield it, then they are going to have tremendous influence over the government like they've never had.
So education is part of this.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I call it your civic authority, and your civic authority is kind of like a sword.
What about a responsibility?
Your civic responsibility is to go vote.
But it's an actual responsibility to be an educated voter, not just go vote, right? I mean,
Right, absolutely.
some people say if you don't want to pay attention and know what you're voting for, then stay home.
But your civic authority is really your power and your right to hold your elected officials accountable. And what's happened is most people don't know how to make that happen today.
If somebody wanted to learn how to make that happen today, could they call you and ask for help?
Oh, absolutely.
How would they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me at kpotter@tncsg.org.
There you go. There's another gentleman here to help you. Just all you have to do is ask him, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for being here
You
today.
bet, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.